Hey guys, welcome to the podcast of today, The Power of Six, a podcast featuring six student advocates who are making an impact. My name is Paul and I'll be your host for today's episode. On this podcast, we will discuss the sustainable development goal 14 of the United Nations, which is the life below water. And anchored on it is a pressing issue in Mindanao as a construction of a bridge threatens the environment. With that, we will hear different angles and perspectives, providing insights and opinions of six students. So sit back, relax, and join us. We hope this podcast will inspire you, educate you, leave you more curious, and be a little more advocate for the environment of today. Hey guys, so how are you? How is everyone? How are you?
I'm feeling really grateful and I'm really excited for this podcast. How about you?
Yeah, I'm also very excited to start this podcast with all of you guys. So how about you, Jonah? How are you?
I'm feeling a bit nervous and excited at the same time because I know I have a lot of things to learn in this podcast. How about you, Gio? How's your day?
It's been great. I just chilled at home and did some tasks. Thanks for asking. How about you, Michaela?
Um, Hi everyone. I started my day with a cup of coffee and I'm really looking forward for this podcast. Are we on the same page, Amani?
Yes, actually, I this is actually my first podcast, so I'm really looking forward to what we're gonna learn today and talk about today.
So thank you everyone for your greetings of goodwill. So let's now proceed to the first question. So guys, have you ever been to Samal? Kia,
Yeah.
Jonah,
Yes.
Gio,
Yeah.
Amani, Kala.
Yes.
Can you share
Yeah.
your insights? Let's start with Kia. Have you ever been to Samal?
Yes, I've been there like every year and I do snorkeling there.
How about you,
Wow.
Jonah?
Um I've been to Samal a lot of times actually. I really like the beach there because of its white sand and a lot of activities you can do there.
Anyone wants to share, Gio?
Yeah, we went there last month and we tried their bibingka and it was so good. And what I like about Samal is that it's near Davao and there are a lot of resorts and activities you can explore. And yeah, surely you will enjoy the rest of Samal.
I wanna try the sama bibingka. Is it better than the bibingka of Digos?
Yes, yes.
Excuse me. How about you, Manny?
Well, actually, I have never been to Samal, so I would like to go there one day, maybe this year or in the future.
Yeah. I really think that you should go to Samal. Well, personally, I've I went to Samal a few times only, but I've appreciated the white sand, the nice beach, the nice community, the nice vibe, the sunset, and especially the environment as a whole. So I hear that many foreigners actually do snorkeling and scuba diving there. So proceeding to the main issue of this podcast. So let me start with this. So there is a proposed project, namely Samal Island Davao City Connector Bridge, or you will recognize or um, more often known as the Davao Samal Bridge. So this project will provide a direct link between Samal Island and Davao City. So Well, of course, the bridge will span in the Davao Gulf. So it will affect whatever is down below that water area. So, of course, the project is envisioned to promote economic growth and development by improving connectivity and accessibility between Samal Island and Davao City. Well, yeah, of course, that is really good, right, for us. Although there is a concern, the project has raised environmental concerns as it will hit Paradise Reef. So Paradise Reef is a rich marine environment in the west part of Samar. So my general question would be, why is the government pushing for the construction of the project despite the warning of environmentalists who presented the negative effects um, to the marine and coral life of Samar? So is it worth it to sacrifice the welfare of the environment for economic development rather? So I have a set of questions here that I would like to discuss, and that would be starting with the first question. How do you think, guys, that local residents or you being a local resident in Davao feel about the construction of the bridge?
Well, so there are some people who are all for the building of the Samal Davao Bridge because they think that it could lead to more money and visitors coming in. But there are also who are worried. There are also people who are worried about like it might mess up the environment and cause locals to lose their homes. Basically, it's a mixed bag of opinions, and that depends on what each person has been through and how they see things.
Yeah. I agree with that. So do anyone want or does anyone want to add on to what Amani said?
Paul, I like to share my opinion about that because as a local who have experienced and witnessed the wonders of Samal, I personally have a lot of confusions regarding the Samal Davao Bridge because number one, it can destroy a lot of things there, and might as well the conserved areas for a long like for a long time. There are a lot of preserved areas there, and it'll be a waste if it'll be just destroyed because of a bridge.
Yeah, truly it will be a waste. So with connection to that question, um, guys, why do you think many individuals are unaware of the environmental impact of this project? Anyone?
Paul, I think that many people are unaware of the environmental impact of the implementation of the bridge because majority seem to be unmindful and passive on the many advocacies conducted both by our government and the private sectors. I think another reason is that people are not really participating in government activities or programs because some of them find it boring and a waste of time. I also observed that people are putting much primacy on the government to protect our environment, and they consider that the that protecting our environment is only the government responsibility and not their responsibility.
Yes. I agree to that. Especially that individuals that are local residents in the area are the ones that are most unaware of this such impact. So proceeding to the next question, what do you think the tourism slash or economic benefits can be obtained for the residents to be so blinded, right? And why?
Well, Paul, I think it's because it will produce more job opportunities for the tourist guides. It lowers the cost of the transportation for the people. Goods and materials for businesses like construction materials can be easily transported. But it is important to consider the potential impact that large infrastructure projects like Samuel Bridge can have on the livelihood of people who rely on traditional transportation methods, such as members of passenger boats. The construction of a new bridge can lead to decreased demand for these type of services, which can result in job loss and decreased number for workers in the island.
Yeah, I agree to that. And it is sad that we live in a generation where people actually, or many actually, doesn't care about the environment, right? That they
I
are
agree with
willing
you, Paul.
to sacrifice um, the environment for comfort, right? And it is very sad. So with that, I ask this last question before we will have a short break. So how should local residents, guys, act? How should they act to protect and educate people around or about rather the dangers of sacrificing marine life resources?
Okay, so you know, Paul, on what Kia has mentioned in the previous question, with the Davao Samuel Bridge, she said that some residents are blinded by the economic and tourism benefits, no? Which is why, in order to protect the marine life resources, I think the local residents should voice out through programs or campaigns so that people, not only those who are living in Samal, but also those who are living in Davao, will be aware of the damages, and they would be informed and encouraged um, to take action with it, even in simple ways. As long as you help each other and everybody, then it's a job well done.
But in addition to what Mikai said, I believe that people can pass out flyers, maybe posters in Samal, because as a person who went to Samal before, I noticed that there are a lot of places without any access to signals and Wi-Fi, which I can lead to the suggestion of passing out flyers and maybe a small gathering to help each other to be more educated and to raise awareness about this issue.
Okay. Thank you everyone for answering the first set of questions of this podcast. So before we proceed to the next set, we will have a short break. Hi guys, and we are back to answer the last set of questions of this episode. So let us start with this question. Um, Guys, how will the implementation of the bridge affect the marine environment? Based on your own knowledge, and what you've heard.
Um, Based on what I've heard and what I've understood, if ever the bridge will be implemented, it can cause a lot of physical damages and disturbances within the area, such as excavation of the seafloor, which can cause to some changes in water current and can also cause some erosions. Also, it can affect the distribution of nutrients and as well as oxygens in the water. And it can also cause noise pollution. Um of course there are a lot of tools to be used in this project, such as a lot of trucks, like tools, and this can increase the turbidity, which can affect the behavior and communication of the marine animals. And finally, if ever this project will be implemented, um, th- there can be a lot of damages to marine habitats such as the coral reefs, particularly in areas with high biodiversity. Samal, for instance.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, Before I add on to that, does anyone want to put more into the question or the insight of Jonah? None? Yeah. So if none, so I want to add on to that, Jonah. Yeah, I also heard that in the news, I saw on YouTube, or I forgot if YouTube or Facebook, that environmentalists push realignment of the bridge. So we are actually given the option for a position of the bridge that will lessen the or impact to the environment, or actually have no impact to the environment, and it will actually less, or it will actually cost less rather in terms of money. And actually, in the first proposed position of the project, it will stand somewhere where the bridge will not hit any rich marine environment. So the question is like, why do the government did not choose that, when in fact it was proven by a certain study, if I'm not mistaken, a Japanese group study, that um, in that certain position, it will cost less and it will not affect any marine environment. So proceeding to the next question, in a line of the first question, how should the local government act to protect and preserve marine life in the region, in your, of course, own opinion?
Um, I believe we can use a lot of comprehensive impact assessments to identify potential risks and factors in terms of affecting the condition of marine biodiversity. Actually, there are some things and factors to be considered, such as water quality, location, and its potential impacts. Also, the use of the use of a design that can minimize the impact of the bridge. If ever we are going to use um a bridge that is big and grand, it can cause a lot of damage to a big area of the marine biodiversity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do agree with that. So does anyone for another time that would like to add to Jonah's statement? So then if none, let's proceed to the third question of this second set. Why do you think the government is neglecting warnings of environmental groups? Why do you think?
So, for this one, Paul, I think that the government is neglecting warnings of environmental groups because, as what I have said earlier, there are some people that are blinded by the benefits we can get with the implementation of the bridge. No, and we all know that it is not just the local residents residing in Davao and Samal that will benefit um but it is the government that will benefit more out of it. So I think that's the reason why the government is neglecting warnings from the environmental groups. And to be honest, it's very sad because we all know that the environmental groups are doing their part and their best to keep the environment to protect the environment, and you know.
Yes, thank you, thank you. And also, um, I would like to add on to that, that another factor maybe is that the less participation of local residents in the area. Because I believe that local residents are the one that should really act, because this is their future we are talking about. And that if they voice out their concerns, opinions with the environmental groups, then I think that will create a great impact to their government, right? And that local government will surely, I think, will reach out to the national government. And that's only my opinion. And yours, do you want to add on to that? No, none. So let's proceed to the last question of this set. Do you think, guys, that environmental organizations warn the government enough about the degradation of marine life in the area, and how?
Well, Paul, environmental organizations already played a role in advocating for the protection of the marine life and raising awareness about the potential environmental impacts of development projects like the Samal Bridge. Based on the article that I've read, according to marine scientists, the area's coral reefs will be destroyed by the bridge current realignment. They claim that the landing sites for the bridge was wrongly selected by the Hong Kong-based consultant Ove Aro, though it is ultimately up to the government to make decisions about the development projects like Samo Bridge.
I think there are actually environmental organizations that warn the government enough, although the government continues to neglect those warnings as stated before, because I think there are things that the government ignore because of economic and industrial benefits. So I believe that the government truly neglects it, and it's not the environmental organization's fault. That's just my
Yeah,
opinion. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. And I would also agree to that, because being part of a student environmental organization, um, we actually saw that many of the environmental groups in the area actually pushed beyond their efforts to actually be heard and to impose a um, um, concern on that matter. So, guys, before we formally end this podcast, I would like to hear your message. Let's start off with Gia.
Well, Paul, I really enjoyed and learned a lot in this podcast. As an Atinian, I think that what we can do about this issue is to advocate about the effects of the realignment of the Samuel Bridge in the environment. That we should voice out our concerns to protect the beauty of Sama.
Yes, of course. So, Jonah, what do you want to say to the audience?
We learned a lot today, and I really hope that it can influence others to give and raise awareness about the possible impacts of the Samal Davao Bridge, and might as well to give importance to our marine biodiversity and do our part as today's youth.
Thank you for that. And now to proceed, Gio.
Thank you everyone for listening, and we really hope that you learned something today. And always remember that progress should be sustainable to the environment and cause the least possible damage. And we should protect what little of the environment we have left. Thank you.
Wow, wow. Thank you for that. And yes, I do agree. Let's protect the little environment that we still have. So next, Michaela.
Um, Thank you for inviting me for today's podcast, Paul. I'm glad I have learned something from this episode, and I hope that the viewers also know. And I hope we'll continue to take care of the environment for the next generations, because I know um if we take good care if we yeah if we take
Yeah.
good care of this environment, then maybe the next generation can benefit also.
Thank you for that. And last but not the least, Amani.
Okay, so thank you guys for tuning into our podcast. I learned a lot. I hope our viewers also learned a lot. And again, as we said before, please try and help find ways to keep our environment safe while still growing the economy, because then again, it's all about balance for a better future.
Yes, yes, yes. So, guys, to formally end this podcast, I would like to thank you for tuning into this episode. We hope you found this episode informative, insightful, and enjoyable. As we wrap up this episode, we want to encourage you to continue the conversation and explore the topics we've discussed further. Finally, we want to express our gratitude to our guests, listeners, and supporters who make this podcast possible. We appreciate your feedback and suggestions, and we are committed to bringing you more high quality content in the future. Thank you for listening, and this is The Power of Six. Bye bye.